name's Frank. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. So over the summer I decided that if I was going to be getting back into reading in a serious capacity, that I wanted to start reading more classics. I am going to talk a bit about my thoughts. I'm not going to say anything that probably hasn't been said before about this book, but I just kind of want to share my experience reading it as someone who went into this thinking that it was going to be a romance love story. This at its core is a gothic horror novel. And I think for some reason the marketing for this book has purposefully been to market it as a love story. I mean, if you look at the quote, can you see that? You know, it says, "Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same." And this is a quote by Catherine Earnshaw Linton in the book when she's talking to Nellie Dean about how she feels about Heathcliff, right? Sounds romantic. And I guess in that moment it is a bit romantic, but their story is not a typical romance. Their story is more dark, I guess you could say. Now, if you are watching this video, I'm assuming you are here for one of two reasons. One, you have read this book, you love this book, and you like hearing people talk about this book. If that is you, welcome. The second reason is that you have seen the trailer for the new movie coming out in 2026, starring Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi, and maybe you're looking into Wuthering Heights because you're thinking about reading this novel, or you just kind of want to know a bit more about it before you go and watch the movie. If that is you, welcome also, but there are going to be spoilers. So if you do plan on reading this book, then maybe this is not the video for you. If you just kind of want to hear about it, like a quick synopsis or something like that, then maybe you should stick around. In the meantime, give this video a like and hit that subscribe button if you like talking about books, hearing about books, reading books. Quick rundown. This is a story about a man, Heathcliff, who is subsequently haunted by the ghost of the woman that he loved. And he's haunted for like 2 decades. He is a very flawed man. He is an abusive man. He is not a kind, good man. That is made evident by the way that he treats pretty much everybody. Hindley Earnshaw, I feel like he's maybe the only one that kind of had it coming. Everybody else, Isabella Linton, Edgar Linton, Kathy Linton, Hareton Earnshaw, all these people who just kind of got caught up in Heathcliff's need for revenge, they were just catching strays, man. Like I really wanted to like Heathcliff as a character. And I think he is a very well-written character. I think Emily Bronte did a very good job at making him the antagonist in this book. Remember, I went into this thinking that this was going to be a romance, that this was going to be a love story, that this was going to be, epic in that way. And so you can imagine my surprise, albeit it was a pleasant surprise, but it was still a surprise as I'm getting through this novel and realizing this is not a love story. This is a man who is determined to create hell on earth for everybody around him, and he's getting his lick back. I mean, he was mistreated as a child. He was not shown any kindness aside from Mr. Earnshaw, who brought him home from Liverpool, and then Catherine Earnshaw Linton. They became very good friends and fell in love and everything like that. So aside from these two characters, Heathcliff was kind of just treated like crap at worst and just ignored at best. I can completely understand why his character was the way that he was. It made me sad, which I think was part of her point in writing Heathcliff the way that she did. This book was a 5-star read. I loved everything about this book. I loved that I was surprised by it. I loved the fact that it exceeded any expectation that I had of it. Because remember, going into it, my only goal was to just read more classic literature. If you are thinking about reading this book, please go into it with the understanding that this book is not how it is marketed. I don't know if it's misogyny in the literary world as to why this work by Emily Bronte is hinted at being any kind of romance. I don't know what the reasoning is. And I'm gonna get to the movie trailer in a second. In the meantime though, if you're thinking about picking up a copy of this book, I highly, highly encourage you to do so. It did end in a way that I felt like it wrapped everything up with a nice little bow, and I was happy about that, I guess you could say. With that being said, as far as the movie trailer goes, I do have some thoughts, probably nothing that hasn't been said already. I'm gonna say it anyway. There are two schools of thought on this movie so far because the trailer doesn't really reveal a lot to the viewer, being Wuthering Heights. The first school of thought is that this book is just a loose adaptation of the novel itself, and that Margot Robbie is supposed to be playing Catherine Earnshaw Linton, and like Jacob Elordi is going to be playing Heathcliff. If that is the case, I feel like this was very poor casting. A lot of people try to argue that Heathcliff is not explicitly a person of color. It's something that is alluded to. People will use the fact back during the time when Emily Bronte was writing this book that when someone was described as dark, they meant like they had dark hair and dark eyes. I'm gonna push back on that idea. I saw a comment that was like, Emily Bronte was a smart woman, she was a well-educated woman. If she wanted to let us know that Heathcliff was a person of color, she would have just explicitly stated that for the reader. She did, okay? And I'm gonna show you in the book where. Before we get to that though, she uses a slur in the book. I don't know if it was, like it's always been a slur, but I don't know that at the time that she was writing this, if it was just a colloquial term to be used for Romani people. She uses that term, Emily Bronte uses that term a few times. I believe, I remember it at least 3 times being used to describe Heathcliff's character. Aside from that, she quite literally, this is where Mr. Lockwood, who is writing in his journal, is talking about his first meeting and encounter with Heathcliff, who is his landlord. He says it on the 4th page. He is a dark-skinned beep. That's where he uses this slur. In aspect, in dress and manners, a gentleman. Okay? Mr. Lockwood quite literally tells us that. Mr. Earnshaw now talking to the family, to the group, because he has just brought home Heathcliff from Liverpool. And he says, but you mustn't take it as a gift of God, though it's as dark almost as if it came from the devil. And he's talking about Heathcliff. And then Nellie Dean says that he has black hair. It is said at some point throughout the book that he has dark eyes. He's not just being described as dark as in dark hair and dark eyes. Mr. Lockwood literally tells us that he has dark skin. There's another point in the book, what cemented it for me, that Emily Bronte was not just talking about Heathcliff being dark in comparison to pale people. He was a brown man. This is after, Mr. Earnshaw just brought him home, and he says, yet when it was set on its feet, it only stared around and repeated over and over again some gibberish that nobody could understand, right? Which is an implication that he is speaking a different language. It's like, okay, so he's dark-skinned, dark eyes, dark hair, speaks in a language that nobody understands. What does that sound like? Because the other school of thought for the trailer is that it is not an adaptation of Wuthering Heights in and of itself. It is that Margot Robbie is playing a completely different character. Jacob Elordi is playing a completely different character, completely new character. And that in this universe of this movie, Margot Robbie's character is reading the book Wuthering Heights and then is proceeding to live her life and experience her life as it is outside of that. And part of the reason people think that is because in the trailer, there is a lot of decadence, there is a lot of wealth, there is a lot of bright colors, and which is like the complete antithesis to Wuthering Heights. Yes, Heathcliff has money, but these people are not rich. Like, these people are not like loaded, okay? If that's the case, cool. Interesting premise, I suppose. But if it is supposed to be even just a loose adaptation of this book, then I don't know why they would cast Jacob Elordi as Heathcliff. It is what it is, right? It's done, it's over with. He already got cast, they already filmed it, it's already gonna come out. Nothing I can do about it. But for anybody that's gonna sit here and say that Heathcliff was just assumed to be a person of color and that had Emily Bronte wanted to tell the reader that he was, she did. She did, and I will die on that hill because she quite literally says it in more than so many words. It's giving they were roommates. Like, it's giving you guys are completely and intentionally just ignoring facts that are placed in front of you just so that you could create your own narrative about how you interpreted a character that was very clearly stated to be dark-skinned, speaking a language that nobody understood, dark eyes, dark hair. And now, it's not only people of color that have dark eyes and dark hair, but like you add that in combination with the slur that is used, the dark skin, and the gibberish, what else could it be, right? What's 2 + 2? Exactly. So in closing, I just want to say this was an amazing novel. I will be rereading it, which for me is not a common thing. I do not usually reread books. Like, I'm so grateful that this was my introduction to Gothic horror as a genre. I'm so grateful that I went into this not knowing that it was a horror novel. At the end of the day, if you have not read this book and you are really interested in reading it, you absolutely should. It's not really a review, but these were my thoughts on Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have any thoughts that I didn't share or that you would like to share, feel free to let me know in the comments. What did you think of this book? What do you think about the trailer for the movie? I would actually love to know because I have really strong feelings on it and I don't know really that they're justified, but I know that that's how I feel. So like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.